Hey everybody. Figured I'd stand up this time. Seems to be a little bit better overall. So, just got back from the midnight release of The Hunger Games, which is a new film that, well, when I went into it I was hoping it would be the next Harry Potter rather than the next Twilight, with the whole kids like the book and stuff. And yeah, I'd say surprisingly it kind of is pretty good. Okay, I'm going to end up complaining about a lot of things in the film. It's like, now that I've told you it's good, I'm going to complain about everything. Okay. The point is, the film overall is good. It's more good than bad. I recommend it. I should point out that I haven't read the books, so some of the things I complain about might be explained in the books. That having been said, I do not understand how certain things in this film happened. More importantly, I don't understand the world this film takes place in. Okay. Clearly the incident, the War of the Treason, or whatever it's called, that basically led to the creation of this world where you have the 12 districts, and you have the capital, and whoever's loyal to the capital. It's clear there's some kind of big cataclysmic war or something that happened in the past. So, and based on the footage that they utilize, it's possible it may have been nuclear. But the best explanation I have, possibly, is either this is some future version of the world from Fahrenheit 451 after stuff goes tits up at the end of that book. And it won't be the first time I mention that book either. Or the actual book explains what happened, and the movie doesn't take the time to do that. Which, considering the movie's already 2 hours and 44 minutes long, is probably a good idea. Now, okay, what's good about the film right away? Okay, I liked the characters. I mean, I like a lot of the characters. Woody Harrelson puts in an amazingly good performance here. I mean, he's great. He does his job perfectly. Their weird bearded Carson Daly type announcer guy is actually pretty interesting too. The guy they have playing President Snow, he does a pretty good job with the whole sinister thing. And most importantly, the heroine. The heroine is solid. She really feels very much neutral in her gender role, and I really think that works best when you're doing action heroes. It's hard to actually do a real neutral element, though, and kind of the way that they exemplify that neutral element is they give her a newt to walk around with her for a little while in the actual event. Unlike with Aliens, though, that doesn't work out as well for Newt. Okay. The point I really wanted to make about this is so much of this doesn't make sense. But they're all little incidental things. The actual overall story is interesting. It's not like it's something that's never been done before. I've mentioned before I'm a fan of The Truman Show. I'm a fan of I'm a fan of the idea of stories in which reality TV goes off the rails and starts killing people for ratings. I mean, the concept is interesting, and it's unfortunately where one day that might actually go. But how this is done is very different. It's reminiscent in a way of the movie I actually recalled strangely was Gamer, except that movie sucks. That movie sucks hard. And this movie does not. A lot of people compared the story to Battle Royale. I have not read all of Battle Royale the whole way through, but it doesn't really feel like it's the same thing. It feels like the very basic concept of pitting teenagers against each other in a death match is there, yes. Along with the whole random supplies thing. But in Battle Royale, it was pretty much just meted out to them. They got some random thing. It could be incredibly useful, like a gun with ammunition, or it could be something completely useless like a butter knife. And the point is, you had to survive based on that. The other thing about Battle Royale that's very different from this was Battle Royale was clearly not relying on the idea of any kind of indoctrination. Because if people refused to kill each other, they just blew them up. Like, they all had bomb collars attached, and they just blow them up. In this thing, it's not implied that the actual trackers they inject into them have any kind of explosive element. So, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's the same in that regard. And kind of the whole point of this is to force these people into complacence. And to do that, they intentionally have victors, or a victor. But this time there was a bit of a rules change, so obviously 2 heroes get out alive at the end instead of 1. That is a similarity to Battle Royale, but in Battle Royale it was far more orchestrated. It wasn't just an element where Woody Harrelson's in the background basically egging the announcer guy on to changing the rules, which is great. And it's a very interesting scenario. The one thing I don't like about the hero characters is Peter, the male character. Yeah, he's a total load. He does nothing of value whatsoever. He basically starts off the story by just about selling out the heroine to this group of 4 people from the 2 Districts 1 and 2, where they actually have massive training programs for the individuals who are actually supposed to fight, which is just, I don't understand how that works, but whatever. Point is, the training programs happen there, and so you've got these other characters that are like, okay, everyone from District 3 on back to 12 is basically considered meat. They're not considered to be worth anything, especially Districts 10, 11, and 12. 10, 11, and 12, it's actually stated, are mostly resource-based. District 11 seems to be agricultural, but I can't be 100% sure on that. And District 12 is actually a coal mining district, which again makes me wonder, what the hell kind of world is this that we're using coal? But, getting past that for a moment, what was it I wanted to say here? Peter, yes, he is a complete load. He does not kill anybody that we know of. He barely helps the heroine in a situation where it's desperately necessary to help. And beyond that, he kind of gets injured to the point where, basically what happens is the heroine uses him as an absolute tool for victory in the final moment of the story. She doesn't want to kill anybody. And the only reason he survives is because of background manipulation and the fact that the heroine doesn't want to kill him. That's literally it. The circumstances change so that they can mess with the crowd enough, especially after what happens to the little girl from District 11. I'll explain that in a minute. But pretty much the entire thing is he survives by dumb luck. And I don't think that actually bodes well for his character. So it'll be interesting to see where they take that in the future. Especially because he still wants to kind of have a romantic relationship with the heroine, despite the fact that I think she was kind of playing him the whole way with that. So, because that was part of the whole background idea they had to manipulate the crowd. So the little girl from District 11. There's this adorable little girl who's supposed to be like 12. From District 11. She looks like she's 8. She looks like she's somewhere between 8 and 10. Might have been a minor problem with the record keeping in that regard. But this little girl from District 11, she's basically this precocious little sneaky girl who's honestly absolutely adorable. And who you know from word 1, she's fucking doomed. I mean, to me, there's no tension, no emotion when she finally dies in her death. But the main character's reaction to her death, especially after, so the little girl dies and uh, basically to defend her and to defend herself. This is the first time she intentionally directly kills somebody. The other time that she's killed somebody before that was she knocked down a beehive, and it turns out it was really, really, really bad, like genetically engineered super wasps. I don't really know what the hell's going on in this world, but I'll get to the genetic engineering thing later. The point is, when the little girl dies, like she puts the arms over the chest, has her holding flowers, walks off into the background. She looks back to the camera, and she gives this weird three-fingered salute that they give, which reminds me of my early days with the Girl Scouts. And, yeah, basically District 11 loses its collective shit and proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that this government is fucking pathetic. These people don't seem to understand how to actually manipulate things. Like, we're going to end up having to get into the crazy part of the movie right now. I was going to try and save it for a little bit later, but I got to start getting into it now because we're kind of going along in time. There don't seem to be any guns in this world. Now, clearly there's a cannon, because they actually call it out specifically as such. So, there's a cannon. It's implied nuclear weapons were used in the cataclysm that occurred 74 plus years ago. Which, by the way, there are still people who would be alive that would know about this crap. At the very least, the leader of the world, the leader of this nation, President Snow, he was clearly alive at the time this happened. And I do have to get off topic for a second with President Snow. He reminds me a lot of Montag's boss from Fahrenheit 451. In regards to the idea that he's kind of got this megalomaniacal ideology that doesn't take people seriously. He's one of those villains who acts like he understands how the masses work, but he's never actually really thought about how the masses work. He's never taken the 5 seconds to realize, wait a minute, these people are exactly the same as me, barring privilege. Maybe I shouldn't treat them like complete crap. Maybe I should actually manipulate them with kindness instead of fear. Or bullshit, also known as hope. And I am glad the movie ends kind of on a little ambiguous note. It says, yeah, this story isn't over yet. And it's one of those things where it's like, you look at this story and you think the one thing that you really need to do in this story is you need to take the fight to the oppressive government. It's not a situation where you can just let it go. You have to make them... It's like you have to actually make this work. You have to make this kind of the thing where they have to pay. So, back to the point I was talking about with technology. They don't seem to have guns in this world. They have really impressive bows. They have stuff that puts the antibiotic gel from Trauma Center to shame. And the heroes ride the super locomotive from the Atlas Shrugged movie box all the way to Atlantis from Journeyman Project 3. Because that's what the Capitol looks like from the outside. And watching that whole thing, I'm like, okay, what the hell happened to all the weapons? What the hell happened to the rest of the world? And I could not get that out of my head for the entire movie. It was really distracting to not know what the hell happened to the rest of the world. For me, it's distracting not to know. I know for a lot of other people it's distracting to have that all pushed on you. But I mentioned it when I was talking about Real Steel. I mentioned that I like interesting worlds that are built when I was talking about In Time. It shouldn't surprise anyone that this is distracting to me not to know what the hell is going on in the rest of the world. If there even is a rest of the world. If this isn't some alternate version of 1942, of 1984, or some shit. I don't even know. That's the problem. I don't know, and I'm having a lot of trouble trying to figure out exactly how the hell this all happened. Because clearly the 1940s happened, but aside from that, we don't even fucking know. Like, there's no cars, but there are airships and trains. fucking airships. I don't get how it happened, okay? That's my problem. So, let's see. One funny moment I want to get to before I get to the part where I really talk about what the hell's going on, what the hell they really screwed up in this story. And I think this is a problem with the book, not the actual movie specifically, but right at the beginning, you get to see the various members of the various different tributes, which are basically a term for pawns in our absolutely pathetic little game of patting ourselves on the back and acting like we understand sacrifice when we don't know jack shit about it. Like some rich people in this country. Anyway, the point is, you see one character who's a knife thrower. Like, her special ability is throwing knives. She's from the 2nd District, so she's one of, like, the 4 very heavily combat-trained, but having only mediocre actual survival skills. And, yeah, she's basically a knife thrower. You see her throwing knives most of the time in the movie. At the beginning of the fight, for some reason, during, like, the grand melee that happens in the middle to try and get supplies, which, as Woody Harrelson points out, that's there to draw a lot of people in and just get them killed immediately. That's all it's for. It's not there to actually give you supplies to make this interesting by stretching it out and making it kind of a last person standing thing. It's there to get people killed. Right off the beginning. So, the hero, the guy, runs like hell. Smartest damn thing he could possibly do. The red-haired girl from District 5, who is actually one of the smartest goddamn characters in the story, except she doesn't know what kind of berries are poisonous, ends up grabbing, like, a small bag and running really fast as well. She does a good job of just running. She runs in and out almost immediately, multiple times during the film. The heroine tries to grab, like, one of these supply bags, and she gets assaulted by the knife thrower. The knife thrower, in a moment of abject stupidity for anyone who understands anything about how knives work, throws a hunting knife at her. A hunting knife is not balanced for throwing. Throwing knives are specifically balanced so that throwing them works. Hunting knives are not. Hunting knives are designed for cutting. Or stabbing at worst. So effectively, she gives the main character her most valuable tool just by throwing the wrong kind of knife at her, instead of just waiting. If she'd taken the 5 seconds to wait and not throw that knife, the main character would have been up shit creek, because she wouldn't have had a fucking knife. Now, I can't be 100% sure of that. I'm pretty sure the knife she pulled out of the bag was the one that was stabbing it. Because, like, she catches the knife with her backpack. So, you know, if that girl hadn't thrown the knife, it would have been a lot easier to find and kill this girl. Because, like, she has to set up all this crap with it. And, yeah, okay. Now I have to get to the really weird shit. Apparently the arena that they're fighting in has all sorts of random bullcrap. Where the showrunners can basically create plot twists by changing the environment itself and shooting fucking fireballs at people. Again, where are the guns in this world? But more importantly, you're shooting fireballs at one of these people. Because she's getting too close to the actual edge and she's too far away from everyone else. It's like too early and they want her to get back to the rest of the people so that they can get more people killed as quickly as possible. Like, the whole point is to try and kill off a bunch of people early on, so it's down to, like, the last few desperate people. And, by the way, at a certain point, they release the hounds. And by release the hounds, I mean they literally spawn giant bulldog, pit bull, leopard fucking hybrids that make no sense. How did they do that? How do they spawn these things out of nowhere? No, they literally create the damn things with their computer system, and boom, they're right there in the arena, and they can actually kill you. It's not like a Matrix thing or anything where your mind makes it real. That's bullcrap. It's fucking bullcrap. Because physical injuries don't work that way. They somehow figured out a way to rapidly spawn life. How does that work? What sense does that make? It takes what was actually an interesting story and, you know, instead of having a situation where it's like, okay, here's what they do. They have this big cornucopia thing in the middle, which is like a big tent building thing that looks like a giant cornucopia horn. And, okay, they can start forest fires, right? Why don't you just light the entire arena area on fire and have the fire spread inward to the point of that final arena? That way, you force everyone together to fight each other in a final melee, and you don't have to have bullshit like spawning random fucking dogs or cats or whatever the hell these things are. I know I'm going on and on about this, but it completely breaks the immersion for me. Like, this came out of fucking nowhere. I just... ugh. And really, that was the biggest problem. Everything else in the ending is great. The actual politics going on behind the scenes are great. The idea of the sponsors, that was something I thought was really interesting and very unique, and definitely made this feel very different from a lot of these other stories of the reality TV show going to the like deathmatch thing. Because there was so much betting going on, there were people behind the scenes that could actually finagle supplies for the characters and send them things like food or the super awesome antibiotic gel that can cure wounds with like 4 hours rest. Like, this stuff's more effective than healing spells at D&D, and somehow they have it as actual technology. It's just like the entire thing is really great in concept. Like, so many of these things are interesting in regards to the idea of peace as well. If they can create these situations of life, like they can create fucking trees. Real, honest-to-God trees. Real, honest-to-God animals. Out of who knows what. And yet you have specific districts that exist for agricultural harvesting purposes. Why? What in the world is it that you so desperately need them to grow if you can just grow animals out of nothing? I don't get it. But, you know what? I still recommend the film. If you're a fan of the books, I can't imagine it being all that bad. Again, remember, changes sometimes are made from the books to the movie because sometimes things in the books are stupid, like Tom Bombadil. Anyway, point is, yeah, basically I recommend the film. I'd say go ahead and see it. I won't mind if it actually makes first at the box office. I saw the new trailer for Titanic's re-release. I have no idea who the hell designed that, but the moment you start advertising something like Titanic as from the director of Avatar, you've already lost me. Well, I'm getting kind of tired because it's late, so thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.